Hello, good morning everyone. This is Servium calling. Welcome to the next in our series of INOOT webinars. My name is Steve Dawes and I'm the Services Director. So thanks for taking the time to join us today. Our INOOT series is all around informing you as our customers about latest technologies, new vendors in the marketplace, things that we believe are groundbreaking. And today we're working with Panda Security around their endpoint security proposition. So I'm kindly joined by Mike Britton. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Steve.
Thanks for joining us today. So just for everyone's benefit, we're using Zoom today to deliver the webinar, and we'll be recording it as well. So there'll be an opportunity to share the recording with your colleagues. We'll send that out to you later on today. We'll be taking question and answers towards the end, and also a poll to get your feedback. So hopefully everyone who's registered has got the crunchies. So it's Friday, put your feet up, relax for the next sort of 20, 30 minutes and hear what we have to say. And 27th of September, just some facts around what's happened on the 27th of September. 1066, William the Conqueror's troops set sail for England. In 1825, George Stephenson's locomotion number 1 became the first steam locomotive to carry passengers on a public rail line, Stockton-Darlington one in England. 1953, Diane Abbott, Labour politician, the first black woman elected to UK Parliament, was born. In 1993, we all remember the British crime series Cracker, created by Jimmy McGovern, started broadcasting on ITV, starring Robbie Coltrane. And in 2017, Hugh Hefner, the American magazine publisher and businessman, died of natural causes, apparently at the age of 91. But more importantly to us, Friday is INOOT Day. So without further ado, let's start the proceedings off. So we've got some new people joining today. So for their benefit, let's give a bit of background on Servium, who we are, what we're all about, and ultimately you are our customers. We put you at the center of everything we do. We want to create great experiences and we want to go that extra mile in everything. We have a superb account management team that try to sort of stand in your shoes, be very accessible, very responsive, and can be straight talking with all the vendors and all the technologies and so on that we work with. But our approach is understanding your strategy, working with you on the design, helping implement, help support. But I think the most important thing to me from a services point of view is once we've delivered a project, no matter how small or how large, is we review it to make sure that we've ticked all the boxes, we've hit the timescales, hit budgets, and make sure that we learn any lessons. So our services approach is very much around the whole huge breadth and depth of our services capability. It is, we believe, second to none in the marketplace. It's scalability and access to resource that you've got available to you as our customers. But the key thing is that we're doing nothing massively different than anyone else in the industry, but I think this transparency of what we offer is absolutely key. And I think today, where we're working with like some Mike at Panda, that transparency, who we're working with, the subject matter experts, because we can't claim to be experts in everything all the time. And then it's all about delivering that value to you as our customers, with the relationships we have with the vendors, our partners, and so on. And the services, there's a huge range, breadth and depth of capabilities. I mentioned we've run a separate webinar on services. So I'd encourage you to look at that on our YouTube channel, which goes into a lot more detail, but there's very little that we can't do around the vendors and technologies that we can provide. So when you look at our Servium Pathfinder and the different elements of it, today we're heavily focused on security. It's a big topic in the marketplace. It's very sort of visible and on top of people's agendas. And that's why we have been partnering with Pandas, one of the emerging vendors in the market, certainly in the UK, that we believe they can deliver a great difference and a great advantage to you as our customers. So, Mike, I'll hand over to you. The floor's yours, and Mike's going to give some background now and also we're really going to test ourselves. Another live demo again today. So no pressure, Mike. Over to you.
Thanks very much, Steve. Thanks for the introduction. And thank you, everyone, for attending to hear me out today. Panda Security tend to have a lot to offer that most people don't realize. So I'm really pleased to be here today to show you guys what we can do. I'd like to start, if I may, with a quick introduction to Panda. We are a Spanish-born company formed almost 30 years ago now, and we've always had a special focus on endpoint security. But over the last 10 years, we've refocused our efforts into creating a new security model. This security model has been designed from the ground up to be a more effective protection, free of the typical shortcomings of traditional antivirus solutions. This is the model that's helped us expand our stronghold in Europe and has seen extremely rapid growth in the UK over the last few years. Our growth has resulted in us becoming a leading vendor in the EDR market space, and it's some of these EDR capabilities I'd like to share with you today. Before I get into the nitty-gritty, I felt it'd be prudent to briefly explain for anyone who may not be familiar what EDR really is. Before we had EDR, we had antivirus, and this is fantastic technology at helping us block known malware or maybe filtering undesirable URLs, but it has always struggled with unknown malware. This means that before antivirus can be truly effective, someone has to get infected. We refer to this type of malware as zero-day threats, and it used to pose a significant problem. Unfortunately, almost all antivirus solutions adopted this signature file model, meaning that pretty much every business was not adequately protected against zero-day threats. So EDR is the industry's answer. It's a collective term, like antivirus, which describes a subsector of security technologies. The term was coined by Gartner, and it stands for Endpoint Detection and Response. Gartner has a fairly long explanation of what defines an EDR solution, but in simple terms, EDR solutions must be able to fulfill two main requirements. Number one, they must be able to protect against zero-day threats, and number two, they must be able to report in sufficient detail information about security incidents. Panda's route into the EDR market space, though, is quite interesting. We've been developing our EDR solution for almost 10 years now. It's been something more of an organic development rather than a reaction to the market. And after 5 years of research and development, we released our EDR solution back in 2015. Fast forward a few years, and we now have some compelling services, in particular, the 100% attestation service and the threat hunting investigation service. We do offer a lot of other options, but it's these two core services that I'd like to share with you today. So, a new cybersecurity model. Our model focuses around a broad distinction in every cyber attack. And that is whether it's an entity-based malware attack or a malwareless attack. An entity-based malware attack incorporates malicious software that's been developed by the attacker specifically to achieve a certain goal in mind. Whereas malwareless attacks, they just don't use any malware at all. We combat the former of these two attack types with our 100% attestation service. This is a 4-step model, and unlike many other solutions, it's actually quite simple. So when a process or an application tries to run on your computer, we would first check if it is known malware, just like traditional antivirus would. But we'd also check if it is known goodware. We can only do this because we maintain a database of every process run on every endpoint that we protect. So far, this database contains over 5.5 billion known processes, so we usually know most of the processes you are likely to use. If we don't know a process, however, then it moves on to step 3. If the process is running on your computer and it's not already known in our database, then we'll automatically classify it. That is, we'll block the unknown process, collect a sample, and determine its classification all automatically. This service is automated end-to-end 99.98% of the time using machine learning techniques. Lastly, we have the anomalies. These are the new attack patterns, the unusual samples, which our machine learning algorithms are unable to handle automatically. With these, we go back to basics and we analyze the samples with a real human analyst. All in all, this is how we ensure a 100% comprehensive attestation service. The bottom line with this is, using this model, only goodware can run, period. The results of all of this hard work have paid off for us. This graph shows the number of malware instances that have escalated to Panda since 2015. As you can see, we experience a steady decline in malware instances as more and more of our customers upgraded to our EDR solution. This is reaching almost zero by 2018, which is the purple line at the very bottom. Given these results, we believe that malware is under control with our EDR solution, but what about malwareless attacks? Panda Security includes as standard a monitoring service that we call the Threat Hunting Investigation Service. We take the most prolific indicators of attack and monitor for them for you automatically. There is no need to configure this, it's already enabled by default. If we identify an indicator of attack from any of your endpoints, we'll proactively contact your administrators to let you know. The reason that we can do this is because of telemetry. All the Windows devices we protect are feeding us telemetry. The telemetry is used to give us context on the type of attacks that are happening. It also means that we're able to identify if these attacks may be happening to you. In the beginning, we hypothesized some scenarios. So this is number 1 on the slide. And we run through these hypotheses and compared them to the event storage that we already had to identify legitimate indicators of attack. These indicators of attack formed our threat engine, which is number 2 on the slide, which now automatically monitors for the most popular indicators of attack that we've seen. If we get a hit in the threat engine, we first verify the threat with one of our analysts before notifying you what we've discovered. Both of these services are key to our ability to protect against more advanced attack techniques. We incorporate these services into our Adapt Defense solution, which may be run alongside any antivirus solution you may already have. The solution uses a single lightweight agent which installs onto each of your endpoints. The agent may also be used for many of our other solutions as well, saving you time and providing you a unified infrastructure to meet multiple security needs. It's also well worth mentioning that Panda has received a fair bit of acknowledgement within the industry. We are the only EDR solution to hold a Common Criteria certification. Common Criteria is an internationally recognized set of criteria designed to give assurances to buyers that a solution has been independently verified as secure. We are also acknowledged by many others, like the IT Pro publication, for which we've won the Editor's Choice Award 2 years running now. We also achieved this year the Customer Choice Award from Gartner. The Peer Insights is an independently verified Gartner initiative where customers may leave impartial reviews. Only the top 6 vendors achieve this award, so it's a great testament to our customer service that we've got this award. I'd like now to show you around the solution so that you can get a sneak peek as to what it actually looks like and the look and feel. So I'm going to switch to sharing my screen now.
Yep, over to you. Mike, you should be able to do that now.
And there we are. Steve, could you just confirm?
Yep. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Fantastic. So this is the Cloud Console. And in the Cloud Console is where the administrators would set everything up and review your security posture. So when you initially get this, it would be empty, but of course you install the software. The software looks like this on the endpoints. This is the Windows version, but it is cross-platform, so you can install this onto some other devices if required. And in the status page, you can see the security posture of your endpoints. So of course, the protection status indicating that everything is properly protected, or whether you've got any licensing concerns or installations occurring and so forth. Then over to the right, the last time the endpoint's connected to the cloud console, and just general information. Now, further down a little bit, you'll see this currently blocked programs being classified. And if you recall from the 100% attestation service, we block an application if it's unknown to us. This is where the administrator can view these bits of software or these processes that have been blocked by the solution. And this is where you would click through to see more information, such as the computer that they have been blocked on or the file name itself. However, if this is a piece of software that you as a company know is safe, your IT department, your administrators, they know that they want to run this, irrespective of whether Panda knows if it's good or not, then you can unblock these processes. You'll see at the top that it just reiterates that the administrators allowed this to run before malware has been classified. So before Panda has determined whether it is goodware or malware. Now, of course, this is fantastic because in certain scenarios, this is a requirement. You don't want us to be preventing any bespoke software or proprietary software from running on your estate. But in the same breath, it can introduce the possibility for human error from an administrator's perspective. And this is why we have this widget here, programs allowed by the administrator. And you can see that it pretty evidently will show you if anything that's been allowed by the administrator has subsequently been classified by our attestation service as malicious. Now, if this situation does occur, then it's something that the solution will automatically overrule the administrator. That is, the classification from the attestation service will overrule if the administrator has previously allowed this sample to run. That means that if something is allowed by the administrator in error, we will automatically rectify for it once we know that it's malicious, and we'll cleanse that malware from the endpoints and remediate it and block it moving forwards. But of course, whilst this is all great, by this point, the administrator has already allowed malware to run on the endpoints. So we ask the next logical question, which is, what's the impact to the business? And this is another area where the forensic telemetry that we use for the threat hunting service comes in very useful. Down the left-hand side here, we have the malware activity widget. And if I click into this, this is going to show me every single process that's attempted to run on any of my endpoints that resulted in a malware classification, whether it run or not. So here we can see the files and the samples and where they're located and the computers in which they exist, along with the classification. Over on the right-hand side, we have this column here. This is indicative as to whether this process was in fact allowed to run on the endpoint by an administrator or someone with permission. In the vast majority of instances, in practice, what you're going to find is that everything that's unknown to us is blocked, and it's extremely unlikely that an administrator has intervened and allowed that unknown sample to run. If you see this, then the solution has done its job and it's protected you from a potential malware outbreak. However, if the administrator has intervened and allowed an unknown sample to run within your estate that has resulted in being malicious, then you will see this sort of display in the console. This is the scenario where you might wish to investigate a little bit more to understand what the impact is to your organization. So if we look over at the next column here, you can see that this is indicative as to whether any data has been accessed by the malware. Has this malicious process accessed anything on the file system of the host that's been infected? And the third one across is showing us whether this malicious process has made any external connections from the host. This could be indicative of lateral movement across the local network to other devices, the peer devices on the network, or it could be indicative of internet connections to a command and control server set up by the cyber attacker. The next column across, of course, is showing us the last action automatically taken by the solution. And if we want to dive into this a bit more, then we can click on any one of these samples and it will drill down into that specific sample for us with more detail. Now, of course, if you get to this point, the elephant in the room is, why has this malware been allowed to run? And by far and away, the most common reason for that is going to be the administrators allowed the threat to run. And that is reconfirmed for you at the top. Then next down, we have the classification again, the last action taken again, the host and the sample. But if we move into the threat impact on the computer, we've now got quick links to Google and VirusTotal. This enables us to expand our research beyond the Panda platform. VirusTotal in particular is a very good resource. It's a third-party organization that collates all the virus definitions from many, many vendors. So it can be very, very valuable for finding out what all the different vendors classify a sample as. Further down here, we also have the infection source, obviously a key piece of information. And this will show us the first computer within our network that was allowed to run the malware by the administrator. We also see the user in which the malicious process was running as on a particular endpoint, which gives us some indication as to how the malware was able to run in the first place. Here we can see other occurrences on other computers, and notice how in this instance the malware has tried to change its name as it's laterally spread across the network. The reason that this is important is because we have not been fooled by this. We independently check every single sample that's uploaded, and we're able to explicitly identify it regardless of attempts to disguise itself. Here you'll notice I skipped over a couple of buttons in the console, and this is because if we click into the full activity details, it's going to give us even more information. Now this is getting a little bit more detailed, but what it's doing is it's pulling that forensic telemetry out of our back-end database retrospectively. And here we can see a step-by-step account of everything that's occurred with this particular sample of malware. So running top to bottom, we can see exactly every single event that has resulted from this malicious process having been run on the endpoint. We can also view this information in a different view. This is the activity graph, and this is a visual representation of the same information. Here we see the malicious payload that has executed, and everything around it, the events that occurred as a result. At the bottom, we can scroll backwards through this timeline, and we can understand the sequence of events by running through this in the logical order. This can be invaluable in these scenarios, but it's important to remember that this very often only becomes applicable if the administrator has allowed unknown software to run on the endpoints. And in practice, the way in which the solution is actually used is that the classification of all programs run and scanned, the 100% attestation service, is relied on upon your IT teams in order to ensure that only trusted programs ever run on any of your endpoints. In addition to this, the console also has some rather good asset management capabilities. So if nothing else, it's a great place to find all of the machines which you have the Panda software installed on and relative information according to those devices. All of the devices can be organized through the organization tree down the left-hand side. It can be incorporated and linked with Active Directory. And through here, you can click on any of these devices to get more detailed information. It stores things such as IP addresses and MAC addresses, which can be very useful to have on hand to IT professionals. In addition to that, though, we also see hardware specification of the devices. For Windows devices, this will show us the last 24-hour CPU utilization, as well as memory and as well as disk. And we'll also find that it shows us a software inventory as well, which can be very useful. It even goes as far as to show us a retrospective log of software that's been installed and uninstalled to the device or from the device historically. And this software inventory also will include Microsoft patches that are applied to the device. In addition to this, there's also one other key feature that I'd like to demonstrate to you. You'll notice these flashing dots across some of these devices. And what that is the ability to isolate a device through the Cloud Console. So if we click into one of these devices, you'll see up here there is an icon in the top right-hand corner. And if we select this, it gives us the option to isolate the device. But more than this, it also gives us the option to allow a specific process to be exempt from the device. This is quite a useful feature if you're trying to administer and look after devices for which are remote from your IT team. It means that they can isolate a device which they do not want to be part of the network, maybe for security concerns or something else, but they can also exclude the solutions that they use to remotely administer those devices, not cutting themselves off from the device in which they're trying to administer or look after. This is a really, really cool feature. So I think that's probably a good introduction to the solution. That's probably all that we have time to show you right here, right now. So I will stop the share briefly and let you take it back, Steve, so we can get to the...
That's brilliant. Excellent. That was really, really good. And it's always a true test when we do live demos. So that was fantastic. I think great insight into the solution. There's some innovative things there, and we're only really scratching the surface. But that was really, really fantastic. Thanks for that,
No
Mike.
problem. No problem.
So what we'll do now is we'll take some questions and answers. You'll be able to see a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. So you can ask questions anonymously that I'll put to present to Mike. So if there's any questions you'd like to ask, then please click on the Q&A button and we'll fire away. So Mike, there's a couple of questions that have come in already. So one from Ian. What kind of threat intelligence does Panda have at its disposal?
Yeah, absolutely. So, of course, as I mentioned before, we have quite a capability in that we collect forensic telemetry from the endpoints. And it actually amounts to tens of millions of endpoints that we protect globally. Add that to the 30 years experience, almost 30 years experience that we've got, and we have quite a comparable amount of threat intelligence. The telemetry that we collect not only allows us to provide additional services like the threat hunting investigation or the activity graph, but it's also used by us to understand how cyber attackers are innovating and what the next type of attacks might look like.
Okay. A question from James in relation to the EDR technology. What is really making it different from other vendors on the market?
Good question, actually. So the EDR market space is quite a lot different from the antivirus market space in that every vendor that you go to will more than likely have a very, very different methodology. So the methodologies that I've explained to you today, the way in which we protect against zero-day threats and malwareless attacks will differ quite a lot from what an awful lot of other vendors are doing. In addition to that, it's worth noting that Panda developed this solution from the ground up over the course of nearly 10 years, as opposed to perhaps inheriting the technology or acquiring the technology in some other way. And I feel that that is a very important point because it translates, in my opinion, to a better personal experience and workflow. Okay,
cool. Thanks for that. Question here from Alan in relation to deployment of adaptive defense. So how easy is it to deploy adaptive defense within my business? Is it a long-winded process? So what's your response to that, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, every deployment is going to be different and every deployment has its own little foibles or quirks. However, Panda have done a pretty good job in making it as easy as possible. We support the capability to install over the top of pre-existing solutions if you wanted to replace your existing antivirus with one of ours, for example. And we also incorporate deployment features within the solution itself, meaning that the solution that you install, the physical piece of software that works as the endpoint agent, also doubles up as a deployment tool. So it will literally scan all of the computers on your network and provide you a list in the console for you to just click through the console, the ones that you want to install to, and then with a click of a button, it spreads it across your network. So I think we've done quite a lot to try and make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Simple is best. And I think you might have sort of answered this question a little bit in the previous question, but one from Joan. Can I use Panda alongside my existing AV?
Yes, absolutely. So as I sort of alluded to, we're showing you our EDR capabilities here with Adaptive Defense, and Adaptive Defense absolutely can be used to install alongside your existing antivirus. In fact, the entire EDR industry has been designed to complement antivirus, not replace it. Although, of course, we have been an antivirus vendor for many years, so we do have options to replace your antivirus or install alongside it.
Cool. Okay. So I think that's, can't see any more questions. However, if there are any further questions, then please get in touch with your account manager or drop me an email, and we'll answer those as quickly as possible for you. So what I'm going to do now, just before we close, is just launch a brief poll for everyone. If you wouldn't mind completing, this is just a way for us to get feedback on each of our INOOT webinars. It's important for us that we get it right and we fine tune and we improve as we go along. So if you wouldn't mind completing that, much appreciate it. So for the benefit of everyone, we will be sending around a recording of this in a follow-up email this afternoon. So you will be able to share it with your colleagues as well. It will be published on our YouTube channel as well in a couple of weeks. So again, I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's a lot of content on there now, particularly around INOOT. This is probably number 16, I believe. But also, we're offering a free of charge 30-day proof of concept and trial. So if you are interested in that, then if you just highlight that in the poll, there is a question in there in relation to would you be interested in implementing Panda software within your business. If you say yes to that, then we will arrange a free of charge proof of concept trial for 30 days as part of the follow-up. And obviously, Mike will be working very closely with us as part of those proof of concepts. And we think it's a great way for you to try the solution, put it to test in your own environments, and we'll support you during that process as well. So highlight that in the poll at the end, and we'll arrange for that to be arranged for you. So, Mike, I just want to thank you for that. I found that really, really useful, a great insight, some good background there. And you said we're only scratching the surface. If customers want to know more information or, again, have a specific one-to-one with ourselves and Panda, then we're happy to arrange that, either on a one-on-one webinar or a face-to-face meeting. We'll support you in doing that. So, Mike, appreciate you taking the time. That was
Thank you very
really
much
good.
for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was good. So, just to bring things to a close, everyone, while you're completing the poll. So that was a session on Panda Security in our, like I say, in our series of INOOT webinars. We are heavily focused around security at the moment because it's very topical. We think it's a very interesting subject to be talking about. We have an INOOT on the 11th of October, Friday the 11th of October, in 2 weeks' time. Again, focusing around security, more around mobile endpoint security. So for mobile devices such as iPhones, Android phones, iPads, and so on. And we're partnering with a company called Lookout that's got a great AI solution that's aimed at sort of closing your security gap around mobile security. And it's something we've also implemented internally as a way of protecting our company data from all the sort of proliferation of mobile usage. So that's on Friday, the 11th of October at 10 o'clock. You can register that on our INOOT hub on our website. So that's it for today. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time. Hopefully you found that a benefit of use. And all I can say is enjoy the rest of your Friday. Thank you.